What does it take to be a full-time caddy at a bucket list resort like Bandon Dunes? What's life like? How does it work? And what do you need to know as a golfer if you're going to have a caddy? Renaissance woman Sara Jo Royalty joins us to tell us all that and more. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I found a new editing software that removes ums, ahs, and pauses, but it creates jump cuts. The FLG Golf Podcast for now is about progress and not perfection. So please subscribe to come on that journey with us and enjoy this Caddy Confidential with Sara Jo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the FLG Golf Podcast. I am very pleased to be joined today by Sara Jo Royalty. Sara, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sara is in a profession in golf, a role that is often romanticized but not often well understood, and that is the life of a caddy. Sara Jo, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, personally and professionally?
I'm a golf caddy at Bandon Dunes Golf Resort, which is on the southern Oregon coast. If you are in golf, you know Bandon. I know last year it was #1 public resort in the world, which is huge. It's definitely the Disney World of golf and a golf mecca. Over half our clientele coming there are for a bucket list trip. I came out to Oregon for fishing, really. I didn't golf at all. I remember I would meet people around the area, people who are caddies. And it's like, we'd be like maybe at the bar having a drink and they'd be asking me, questions about like where I came from. And I'd be like, maybe telling some crazy story about how somebody's flying off the boat. And they're like, why don't you caddy? And I'm like, are you even listening?
But fisher people are also golf people, are they not? They sound so kindred,
Yeah. And I'm like, I always thought it was so odd. I mean, now I understand. When I say I'm a sailor and they're like, why don't you caddy? What they mean is, well, you know the wind more than anybody else. If I'm talking about science and they know how much I understand ballistics, they're like, why don't you caddy? And then being in customer service, being able to read people, and then just like needing to do physical activity for a job. So it was those aspects where people are like, why don't you caddy?
Give me a mini course review of Bandon. Maybe your favorite course at Bandon and why.
Oh, my favorite is Trails by a long shot. I'm a huge fan of Core Crenshaw design in general, but I think that if it was located in Central Oregon, it would get a higher rating. I think it's the only reason it gets a lower rating is because it's not directly on the ocean.
From a caddy's perspective, what architecture don't you like?
I mean, I think a lot of us would say Tom Doak. We are not a fan of Tom Doak out there. And he's done the majority of our courses. I mean, he did Pacific Dunes, which is very highly rated, and Old Mac, which I do love. But the results are too varying. For instance, it's like my guy hit the fairway the other day, and because there was a crazy mound like this in the fairway, which I like undulation, it hit the side of a mound and then shot so deep into the rough that we never saw it again.
That seems unfair.
Fairway, and that's what I mean. I was like, are you kidding me right now? There's a lot of unreasonable bounces like that out there. And
so it sounds like there's a difference between like difficulty and fairness, right? Building a difficult course with lots of hazards and landing areas is fine. But building an unfair course where a good shot is not rewarded or it's penalized heavily is not the ideal.
And that's what like my players are like, so tell me about Pacific Dunes. I'm like, welcome to Pacific Dunes. Go fuck yourself. Like, that's what I say.
How many strokes do you think that you save a golfer around?
That can vary. I would say we're going to save the most for someone like between a 13 and a 17 handicap. We'll probably save the most strokes for. But one thing I notice is, it's interesting how many people have management problems with their game. I have no idea how many times I've had a mid-handicapper or like somebody in their 20s say, I just had the best round of my life. And it's
with
because, or any caddy out there. It doesn't have to be just me because, they're like always grabbing the ball. I want to be long. No, you want to be short here. Or like, no, I've seen you hit that club a bunch of times. I jokingly have a 3-strike policy with wedges. If you're like duff, skull fuck, I'm like, we're done. and then I deal off you until you can work something, you know? I'm like, okay, this 58, we're done with that. Here's your 54. Oh, you're still doing
Yeah.
the 54? Yeah, we're not using that one anymore. Here's your 50. Oh,
Yeah.
you're stuck with a pitching wedge. I work less if you get the ball in the hole sooner. Like, this is a symbiotic relationship.
So are
And
you ever
it's,
coaching on technique, or is it
well,
really just more course management?
we really try to stay out of technique. I mean, we
Yeah.
only deal with technique when, again, it's affecting us too much.
There's also not much you can do for someone who's in the middle of a round and having a shocking round. I want to talk about life as an actual caddy, like that sort of culture also.
At least to be one at Bandon Dunes and probably anywhere, you're talking about being a persona and selling that persona. It's really kind of a show. These people are on vacation. They're here to have a good time. They want, and a lot of them expect banter.
They want
I
a
really
caddy
mean the way that
experience, or
caddies
how they
talk
imagine a
shit.
caddy experience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or how they've seen it on TV or whatever, or how they've heard
Yeah.
about some of these crazy stories they hear on Instagram.
Yeah.
If you can pull that off consistently and have a good time and make jokes, being funny, it's honestly like pretty important. They got to hear
Yeah.
some funny stuff. I mean, I got a couple, and some of it's pretty stock, right? Like you're working with
Yeah.
caddies and you're like, he tells that joke every round. As a female caddy, I cannot make mistakes. You know, if you're a dude, you can be like, oh, you pushed it. Oh, sorry, bad caddy read. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to have perfect yardage and perfect putt reads. I mean, if you're off a couple of times in a round, you're kind of toast.
So do you get the same rate for, like, how do you set your rates? And I guess does your
Ooh.
income vary? Is it based on tips, or is there like a seniority level?
I file a Schedule C. I'm an independent contractor. I 100% am my own business. Um, because I've been at the shack for 13 years, because I've never whiffed, you know, we call it whiffing when we miss a loop or don't show up
Yeah.
for a loop. And like, I've never, you know, had any major issues. Frankly, just even had a lot of guests writing in and being like, she was perfect green reads, fantastic yardage. So
Yeah.
at the shack, like, because I've been there so long and I'm, you know, they know I'm going to show up and they know that nobody's going to fire me. Like, you can fire your caddy. And I hate to say that I heavily encourage it. Like, if you get on
Hmm.
your trip and you get a caddy who is terrible, please get a new one and don't ruin your whole trip by having him for 4 entire days.
Great
Like,
tip.
just get somebody else. There's
Yeah.
plenty of people. And honestly, we do not want that person with a bunch of other customers. So it's like your feedback, however negative, is important. There are going to be people who just don't want a female or just don't want a smart ass or I don't know. And they're like, hey, his yardage is good. I just don't, I don't want to talk at all. Can you
Yeah.
give me a quiet caddy?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. I mean, it is my job to read the room and be a chameleon.
When you say fired, you're not talking about this is the end of their career at Bandon. You're just talking about they get
Fired by
unassigned
a
from a certain
guest.
golfer. Yeah. Yeah.
Fired by
Okay.
a guest. So at the resort, when you show up, if you have 5 days of golf, however, if and you're playing 36 every day, you're gonna have the same caddy for all the rounds.
Yeah.
They want to keep the same caddy with you because he learns your game within
Yeah.
like the first 3 or 4 holes, and then has your game perfected by the end of the round.
So when someone asks you, like, what's it like being a caddy? What do you say?
It's definitely different. Like, I don't have a regular schedule, you know? So the problem with some of that is like, if I want to make a doctor's appointment, I have to take off the whole day
Yeah.
because I mean, I can make a doctor's appointment in the morning and then go tell the shack, hey, I can work anytime after 11. But if they just don't have a good fit for a job, then I'm just not working that day.
It's not as easy to balance the day-to-day responsibilities.
It's
Even
not.
though,
If you
you're
try
often
to,
teeing off in the morning, it sounds like, oh, it's a 5-hour workday, not an 8-hour workday. Is that
well, but
misunderstanding?
that's true for sure. Like, I teed up at 8:20 and I was done by 12:20 and I was home by 1.
Yeah, so you have to know what you're getting into when you're choosing life as a caddy. And I guess these are some of the downsides of it, or upsides. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, one thing we tell each other is like, you don't count your chickens before you hatch, you
Yeah.
know? Because you walk up even to go meet your players And then you don't, and we call it a ghost loop when you get up there and then nobody actually takes you and you just
Mhm.
drove to work, sat at the shack for an hour. So like that stuff definitely happens and it's really frustrating.
This
But
sounds like a career in sales, in like doing sales and doing road shows because like, people are gonna ghost you. People are gonna need to see you at specific times. You don't
yeah,
necessarily know when your next regular paycheck is coming. Like there are tens of millions of people that choose professions like that, that
well,
actually they have a suitable personality for life as a caddy, to be honest.
you
Yeah.
know, we do have a minimum standard at the resort, but like when I tee off with a new guest, I don't even know how much I'm making that day
Yeah.
until they get.
Interesting.
It's $100 a bag plus gratuity. But like at Bandon, they just haven't really perfected their policy there yet because they won't tell you how much gratuity is and they won't tell you how much the industry standard is and they won't tell you how much to pay us. And then they just
Yeah.
gotta figure it out. And
Yeah.
then, like, I had these great guys from Texas that was their first time there. They've never had caddies, and they gave us $120. And so when we get a $20, I'm like, "Am I a waitress at a Waffle House?"
Yeah.
And then the caddy
Yeah.
manager comes back and kind of eludes them to the industry standard, which is actually
Hmm.
50%. And then they feel bad. I'm like, this didn't need to happen. You could have
Yeah.
just told them or put industry standard on the website or anywhere.
Yeah. Like nobody
They could
wants to
decide.
stiff a caddy, right?
And it's
Interesting.
like, they just won't. But, 150 is our average. I mean, we oftentimes make more than that, but we oftentimes
That's
make
take home.
less
So but
because,
that's like 150 in your pocket.
yeah, yeah.
What are, say, your do's and your don'ts as a golfer to properly treat a caddy?
Okay. Do lighten your bag. Only bring what you're using for the day, not for the trip. Especially when you have a caddy watching your ball and where it went into the bush or where it happened, you're gonna get your ball back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't lose balls out there, but our average handicapper is 22. And rarely do we have an occasion where we need to bring more than 6 balls. And reality is if we lose all those, I can find you more on the course. I know where they all are. You don't care what kind of ball you're playing at that point.
Yeah.
You don't care. Is it round and white with dimples? Yeah, it's yours. Here you go.
So if you just get like an absolute shite bag that it didn't fit per purpose, you can actually just ask them to switch bags. It's going to make your life a lot easier.
We do a lot. We don't carry
Yeah.
Nikes. We don't carry OGOs. We don't carry single slotted bags. We don't
What's a
carry
single
net
slotted bag?
bags. Like each club has a slot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Um, yeah, we don't. That actually takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to find the slot when you're
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a process. And those particular bags are heavier. Every time it rains, I change out a pink pepper because those bags are cloth and they take on 10
Hmm.
pounds with water. And then you have a wet, stinky bag in your room. Like, just grab a change
I'm
out.
doing
If
you a
it's
favor.
sticky, but people are
Yeah.
really attached to their bling and their stuff, Or we
Yeah.
get these big leather bags and he's like, "Well, I just bought this." It's like, "Well, I didn't ask you to buy this shit before you came here." You know?
Okay. So what else as a golfer should I be mindful of with my caddy?
You really don't ever want to show up to the course with iron covers on. This is
But
like
Aaron
this looks
Ride
like
uses iron covers on the DP World Tour. Doesn't that a signal that you just love your clubs and you want them
no, that's
to
a signal
have
that you're a
longevity?
massive head case that you need therapy. Like, there's stuff going on there. There's a lot of stuff going on there. We're like red flag all day. Two
Hmm.
putters, red flag. Don't
Yeah.
want to deal with you. So really, our caddy trifecta is fast golf, light bags, and heavy pay.
Yeah.
And then I think another thing which we tend to deal with like in a joking way, like we tend to diffuse and deal with is when they question it's like, "Hey, I've never been here. I've never played links golf.
Hmm.
I've never played in the elements." And then like everything you're saying, I'm like, "It's 130, but we need a 170 club." And they're like, "Really? Really? That's what you think?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not playing the really game. In fact, we jokingly charge for those." I'm like, $5. Oh, that's 10, 15. And I love the wow factor. I
Yeah.
love that they're so like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that's my favorite part is the wow factor, but also do not argue me on every. And I say 2 things. I'm like, "You know what? You do whatever you want. Number
Yeah.
1, this is the advice I have. You hit whatever the fuck you want. But I always say it's just advice. You don't have
Yeah.
to take it. You just have to pay for it. So I don't really
Yeah.
care.
Brilliant.
You know,
That's great. I should use that one in my career. How about the relationship between a caddy and a golfer?
that is the most intense relationship I have ever experienced. I mean, you get these people and you've known them several days and they're like, I would trust you with my life. Also, you're in my will. And you're like,
Tips for caddies to be a good caddy or to have a good long career as a caddy. What's your advice?
well, I mean, I think our shirt says like, shut up, show up, and keep up. The keep up part really could be worked on. And what I mean by that is like, you should be at the ball before the player and you should know
Mhm,
what it's doing before you got there. And I know that's
mhm,
not always the easiest thing to do, but the most frustrating thing that I hate hearing is when a customer comes to me and says, I don't like double bag caddies because they can't get to my ball in time.
mm.
Well, I know whoever they had was not good enough to do it.
So there are
That's
absolutely
like that.
skills. There are ways to be a ready caddy, basically. There are a
There
lot
are
of
ways to be a
techniques.
ready caddy for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Interesting.
And we deal a lot with like subtle and context messaging. So like we don't want to tell our players to hurry up.
Yeah.
We'll be like, oh, he doesn't even have a club yet. We should play ready golf and go
Hmm.
first. You know, because like
Yeah.
honors golf absolutely does not work on these courses. They're too long to walk. You cannot wait
Uh-huh.
for your friend.
This is a people skill business, it's sounding like, right?
It's
This
course
is a sales
management.
and service and people skills and psychology business. Those are the
Right.
real skills you need to have, not just green reading, not just understanding wind and yardage. So Sarah Jo, that's your life as a day-to-day professional caddy at a bucket list golf course. But you also mentioned that you are beginning to caddy more and more for professional players in professional paid tournaments.
Well, I'm going to correct you. I've only carried for amateurs in professional
Ah,
tournaments, which is like the Pro-Am, like the Desert
yeah.
Classic. But man, if I had a player that I could invest in, that is kind of the dream. Being an observer and being a scientist, I collect data. I spend so much time collecting data that for me to be able to collect data on a player and apply that to a professional, I mean, I really just think that that outcome could be pretty spectacular. When I carried in the probably call it the Bob Hope Classic. A few years that I carried on that tournament, I had every time I was in a round, one of the professional golfers at the end, one or more, came up and like when we're shaking hands at the end, literally complimented me on my caddy. And a couple of them have been like, hey, maybe if I hear of somebody who's looking for someone, you know, I can give your name.
Tell us about the sand tramps and what this
Well,
is and what it is to you.
it's really important to me because I have struggled my entire life to make female friends. I've always worked in male dominant industries. It's not because I'm choosing to not hang out with females. It's because the
Mhm.
percentage of females that I come into contact with versus males is under 10%,
Wow.
right? And then I'm supposed to get along with all under 10% of that. It just became tough.
Yeah.
So Sarah and I met on Instagram. I thought her account was cute and funny. And then she was like, we should get a group of girls together. Like we met online, and it's really worked out so far. And I mean, this is the most girlfriends I've ever had. I mean, I'm probably the least chatty in the group chat. There's a group chat going and sometimes I open it and I'm like, I can't even,
I can't deal with
scroll
61
back
unread
that
messages, you
far.
guys. Yeah. I'll just be there at the next thing.
I mean, go look all over the country for these people. That's how it is.
Yeah. And when you find them, like stay
Mhm.
attached to them.
I sometimes joke that golf is secondary. I mean, we're playing the full AT, we're hitting all the shots, but like in between, like we're literally looking around for nonsense. What can we do? We
Yeah.
see 5 parking cones. Let's
I'm going to
go.
climb this tree.
It's just this tree we can climb. Like we're our group is actively looking for shenanigans during the round, and most people don't do that.
What is your beverage of choice on the golf course, or beverages of choice?
It's funny you say that. My beverage of choice. I'm ready. Oh, if I was going to have a beverage, it would be a beach.
Ooh. What
This
is it?
my favorite thing ever. They should just sponsor me in general for
Grapefruit
anything.
hibiscus.
Because
Oh my goodness.
all I do is push this stuff. And I'll tell you why. Because there's like B vitamins, omegas. There's all sorts of things in here. There's no residual sugars. And the big difference is the residual sugars in alcohol are like the big deteriorator, cellular deterioration. It's got probiotics in it on top of it. So it's a raw kombucha mushroom.
And I would say don't knock the hibiscus. I love fruity beers, and I can tell you probably the craft beer festival comes here to Singapore every year. One of the best ones that I've ever had is a hibiscus beer.
I'm telling you, you can drink these and then you wake up with no hangover.
Great reco. I'm going to keep my eyes open for that.
Are...
Sara Jo, thank you so much for the time that you spent with me today and letting me into your world as a caddy, as a woman in golf, as a fly fisher person, as a professional fly fisher. And it's awesome to hear about your journey in all those things. Tell the people where to find you, Sara Jo.
Looper on the Fly is my golf Instagram so that my fishing sponsors don't get angry when I have shenanigans. And then Sara Jo Flies is my fishing one.
And also at @sandtramps_golf for adventures in golf. Yeah. Thanks for watching the FLG Golf Podcast. Subscribe to come on this journey with us. If you want to watch another full episode, click here. If you want to watch a playlist of our best of each full episode, click here.